This meeting is being recorded. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Norman, and I am Programs and Events Coordinator at the Writers Guild of Alberta. And welcome to our readings with the awards finalists for the Alberta Literary Awards. And the Alberta Literary Awards are going to be presented on Friday, June 5th in Edmonton at our awards gala. If you're interested in attending, if you don't have your tickets yet, you can go to writersguild.ca and find ticket info there. We're having a dinner. There'll be cocktails and stuff beforehand. It should be a fun night. We're at the Wyndham Hotel and Ballroom in Edmonton. It should be a nice. And then that weekend is the weekend of the WGA conference, which goes from the 6th and the 7th. So a busy weekend. So we're here to celebrate some of the finalists for the literary awards this year. And before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that this event is taking place virtually, but also we are on treaty territory. Edmonton office Treaty 6 and Calgary Treaty 7. But I wanted to acknowledge that. And I also wanted to read the statement from Grand Chief Joey Peet from the Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations. This is something that I like to read at a lot of the events in Edmonton regarding Alberta separation, Alberta sovereignty. Alberta sovereignty is an illusion. Without treaty, Alberta as we know it wouldn't exist. Our ancestors entered into treaty in friendship to share our territories and maintain our sacred responsibilities to our lands in peace. The treaties came first. The prosperity separatists talk about is built on treaty and the wealth of our lands. Those lands aren't going anywhere, and neither are we. The Confederacy of Treaty 6 stands united with Treaty Number 7 and Treaty Number 8 peoples in protecting treaty lands, waters, and the rights of present and future generations. And that's Grand Chief Joey Peet from the Confederacy of Treaty 6 First Nations. So our first speaker is Catherine Kohler. Catherine Kohler writes for both stage and page. Her books are Voices of the Land, The Seed Savers, and Other Plays, Art Lessons, a novel, Winning Chance Stories, which won a High Plains Book Award, and a new collection of stories, Earthen, which includes her story Buckshot. Her adaptation of Persuasion by Jane Austen will be staged in the fall. And yes, Catherine's story is a finalist for the Howard O'Hagan Award for Short Story. Catherine, take it away.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks to everyone who's here. I'm going to read from the middle of my story, Buckshot, which also appears in my brand new book publishing on Friday called Earthen. As the taxi pulled up to the shop, Nell removed her ring and placed it in her change purse, then overtipped the driver for carrying the heavy package of guns inside the store. Flushed and a bit too friendly, Nell greeted the slim man at the counter and read his name badge. "Hello, this is your lucky day. These are for you if you'll buy them back." Gus, the proprietor of Guts and Guns, nodded. Surrounded by precision tools for killing, skinning, and butchering, Gus, like Nell, was tanned, 70-something, and wore no rings. It was near closing time, and there were no other customers or staff. Hands on the gunmetal, but eyes on her, Gus looked as though he ate wild game exclusively, morning, noon, and night. As he unwrapped and ran his hand over each rifle, Nell imagined him examining her own gentle curves. "Pretty excellent condition," said Gus. Nell laughed, nervous. "My late husband brought home stories, but no ducks." And she pulled out 2 boxes of shells from her bag. "And I like a roast duck once in a while." Don't know how a guy like you, don't know how a guy could leave a gal like you for chilly, wet weekends in swamp grass. Nell smiled. Gus opened the worn boxes of cartridges. They were full to the brim. Nell seethed. Is it possible he never even fired any of these guns? As if to contain her anger, Gus carefully closed the boxes. He spoke quietly, evenly. I can take all of this. Get it off your hands. Nell hissed. Hunting was another duck blind for his affairs. Gus added some figures on a notepad. I'll give you top dollar. He pulled out some 20s from the cash drawer. There's a Hungarian place around the corner that serves roast duck with wild cranberry sauce. Let me treat you to supper. Nell felt her neck redden in escalating intensity, amazed that Gus wanted her company. I'll take the top dollar and your card. She couldn't accept a dinner invitation with the evidence of Irwin's lies between them. Besides, she had lentil soup simmering in the crock pot. I'll call you if I get a craving for roast duck. I'll be waiting. He snapped his business card on the counter, but held it down under his lean, leathery hand. Nell had to tug to slide out the card. Right now, I'm busy getting the remnants of a dead liar out of my house. Because of him, I'm forced to sell. For an instant, Gus's palm rested on hers. In sympathy, she thought. He released it to hand her the cash. Standing a little taller, she rolled up her burlap. What's worse is that I don't want to live there anymore. Her home, formerly her haven, was not only no longer affordable, but also appalling to her. I've not said that to anyone before, but it's the bare truth. At the door, she looked back at Gus, rolling up his sleeves and balancing his long arms wide on the counter. She noticed a tattoo on his forearm and longed to know what it said. Nell surprised herself. Bye for now. He gamely returned her half smile. You know where I am. Nell supposed she was not the only wronged widow to arrive with instruments of marital discord as the sun went down. She never wanted to see a gun again. She emerged in the brisk twilight air with a hot face, a bundle of burlap, the Guts and Guns card, and some rumpled 20s. Nell caught a bus to a bank machine, which she would normally never do unless it was full daylight, because she wasn't taking gun money home, even if it came from the electrifying hand of Gus. Nell marched past the loiterers outside the bank and completed her deposit. Waiting for her transfer bus beside a planter box full of fall mums, she reached down to the soil line, pulled out a thistle, and dropped it in a trash bin. On the bus, she wondered if Gus should bring over a duck while she still had a kitchen of her own. There.
Thanks so much, Catherine. And next up, I'm doing all the stuff in the background. I'm spotlighting people. I'm unspotlighting people. Let's spotlight Allie Bryan. You have been spotlighted. Spotlit. Allie Bryan is an award-winning essayist and author of 6 novels who explores the what-ifs, the WTFs, and the wait-a-minutes of every day. She has 3 books forthcoming: Whatever, an anthology of Gen X short fiction; Pick 6, a contemporary YA; and Husbandry, a follow-up to Roost and Cock. She lives in Calgary on Treaty 7 territory, and Allie is nominated in 2 categories this year. Takedown is your a YA novel for the or Rossinet, and my favorite title of the year, your essay "Two Stupid Idiots," is a finalist for the John White Essay Award. So I'll let you take it away.
Okay. So I'm going to read two short pieces, one from Takedown first. Doesn't really need a ton of setup, but basically it's a story about a young female wrestler whose father is dying from ALS, and she's trying to learn that no amount of wrestling is going to save her father. And there is a touch of romance. And so this is Rowan entering her wrestling club to find there is a new group of MMA students that are training at her gym. I skip the rec center across from the school and head to the club. I'm not in the mood to compete with the leathery triathletes and the sexy Avas for the good spin bikes. I'll use Coach's behemoth treadmill and the squat rack instead. I recognize Axel's Audi when I pull into the strip mall parking lot. A new vinyl banner hangs on the wall behind the front desk. Potentia MMA. Latin doesn't sound very threatening. Axel is in the center of the mat, tied up with another fighter. Both are upside down, torsos tangled, legs flailing. I slip into the change room unnoticed. When I come back out, Axel is breathing heavily on his knees, his opponent flat on his back, shielding his eyes from the fluorescent lights overhead. Both are barefoot. Rowan, Axel waves me over. I need you for a sec. I hesitate, unconvinced there's any reasonable need of his I can fulfill. I don't know their kind of grappling. It'll just take a minute, he adds. I tuck in my shirt and tighten my braid. Quietly, Axel says, I'm taking front head position on you. I nod, ditch my headphones, and drop to the mat. Axel traps my head and arm. Caspian, watch. Look at my left arm and the position of my shoulder. Axel squeezes my head and arm and rolls me into a choke. It's similar to a wrestling Gabori roll. I feel like a shelled animal that's gotten stuck on its back. Axel's forearm is like rebar against my throat. He releases and my body goes limp for a second before I scramble to sit up. Heat rushes to my cheeks. Thanks, Rowan. Caspian, did you get that? Caspian is not paying attention to Axel. Instead, he stares at me with a dreamy look usually reserved for suitors in old-timey romance films set in state fairs. I half expect him to pull a bouquet of flowers from his rash guard. I half expect him to propose. I clear my throat and look away, embarrassed, intrigued. Axel snaps his fingers. Cass, dude, pay attention. Caspian adopts a serious expression. Axel tries to keep a straight face, but he turns away, laughing. Yes, he said, she's strong and a very good wrestler. Caspian, Rowan, Caspian. I probably should have introduced you first. Caspian has bedhead and hair the color of an oatmeal muffin. Just sitting, I can tell he's at least 6 feet, probably more. He has a single dimple, deep as a ditch on the left side of his face, collie ears, and green eyes, unlike Ozzy's chocolate brown ones. A scar gives the illusion his left eyebrow has been stitched into place. Caspian's one of my top prospects, Axel says. He has his first professional fight in June. He sighs, if he can pay attention long enough to get there. I was paying attention, Caspian argues. I was just going through the move in my head. Which move, Axel says, because it looked like the one where you ask her to dance. Now focus. Oh my God, Axel sounds like Coach. Rowan, do you have time for one more with Cass? I want you to put him in the head and arm so he can feel how tight it needs to be before the roll. You've done something similar like this in wrestling, yes? I nod. Caspian awkwardly lines up across from me. I wrap my arms around his head and neck. He smells like Leo, like Old Spice deodorant and Hill Sprints with a hint of Pop-Tarts. Axel makes an adjustment to the setup and then calls the move. We end up doing it half a dozen more times, switching between offense and defense. I learn a new escape technique I can use in wrestling. Caspian regains his concentration and barely cracks a smile for the rest of the drill. I know I'm going to keep that one there. I think this got nominated just because of the title, because it seems to be eliciting some curiosity for sure. So this is a condensed version of the essay. So if there's a little bit that feels like it doesn't make sense, that's because I've taken parts out. Two stupid idiots. Load the shopping basket with eggs. The boy needs them. No scrimping. Eggs pair well with beetroot, creatine, and coming of age. A blast of cool, metallic, milk-tinged air smacks my forehead as I reach for another flat and place them with reverence into the basket. My sister calls from PEI. She tells me a story. Something's eaten her zinnias. I say maybe it was a deer. We don't have deer in PEI, she replies. I tell her we don't have rats. She says, didn't you hear about the deer that swam across the Northumberland Strait? It crawled up on shore and immediately got hit by a truck. I check my list. We need ashwagandha, stat. I find a bottle, read the label. Helps the body manage stress by lowering cortisol. Can also enhance cognitive function and improve sleep. The sign says buy one, get one free. I buy 4 bottles of sleep. My mother texts the family group chat, and into which she's uploaded a link to a speech. With it, an appeal. Must watch. I click on the link. The speech is from 2024 and is delivered by the Nobel Prize winner for physics, a British Canadian. How lovely, I think. A Canadian making his mark on the world stage, and what an interesting choice of bow tie. Another text. It's only a couple minutes long, but extremely scary. Up the aisle, a toddler strapped into a shopping cart hucks a bag of pasta overboard. The package splits. Everywhere, noodles. I watched the speech. There's a new form of AI that uses artificial neural networks and excels at modeling human intuition. These advances can increase productivity and, when applied equally, ethically, can enhance quality of life for all of humanity. When applied unethically, the technology can be used to create digital beings. Smart ones that can decide by themselves who to kill or maim or throw from a shopping cart. Urgent research is needed. The digital beings must be stopped. I look around the grocery store. With the exception of the girl with the machine-made eyebrows and airbrushed skin standing by the dairy case, everyone here seems analog, though I suppose you can never know for certain. These days, even humans seem only half human. There are 2 different brands of ancient grains bread. I know this because the last time I was here, I bought the wrong one. The bread I picked scored very low on the app my son uses to rate the food he puts in his body. The wrong bread contains cancer-causing chemicals, additives, preservatives, stuff that could kill us. It probably contains trace amounts of AI. I check the notes section on my phone, where I've stored the list of non-lethal foods, and find the correct ancient grains somewhere halfway down the screen between the pacifist tuna and the better mayonnaise. Earlier in the day, I completed a work-mandated course on how to spot a deep fake. At the end, there was a test. I had to compare side-by-side images and analyze voice and video clips to determine what was real and what was fake. The first questions were easy: distorted eyes, blurred edges, the absence of background noise. All dead giveaways. The questions increased in difficulty, but I was able to spot the fakes, mostly. I only came in for a few things, but the basket is starting to fill. I'm pretty sure I need bananas, and there's always a chance I'm low on laundry detergent. I should buy some just in case. That aisle is busy because Tide's on sale, and it's important to have clean clothes at the end of the world. I've stopped buying this brand because it lies. It cannot fight baseball clay or spaghetti sauce. I load an alternate brand in my basket, unconvinced it matters. Fire doesn't care if my shirt has pit stains, ditto a virus or a flood. I don't know about the digital beings, though. Maybe they get extra violent towards someone wearing dirty jogging pants. They throw those people off the balconies of 20-story buildings. I add stain remover to my cart. It's getting late and there are now only 2 caches open. I'm over the limit for the express lane, so I join the longer line at a regular till. My basket is bulging. There's no room on the belt to unload my groceries, so I scroll Facebook. Everyone is angry. Everyone is shouting. I plug my ears. The man in front of me is tall and big-haired, 6'5" at least. The basket's getting heavy. I slide my phone into my pocket so that I can hold the basket with 2 hands. The man notices. He shoves his grocery forward with a sweeping arm to make room, places a divider between us. I thank him, tell him I always buy more than planned, and empty my items onto the belt. The couple in front of the man have left, and the cashier is smiling to herself. It's now the man's turn. She asks him if he needs a bag. He says he does need one because he's a stupid idiot who's forgotten his. I say I'm a stupid idiot too, because I also forgot mine. Paper, the cashier asks. The man says no and heads for the rack of fancy reusables. How many, the cashier asks, her gloved finger hovering over the keyboard. 2, he replies. 1 for me. He pauses to throw a thumb in my direction, and 1 for this stupid idiot. We laugh. The cashier says she's laughing because the couple before us also forgot their bags, but that they always forget their bags. She theorizes that the couple owns 10,000 bags. They are much stupider. For a moment, we're silent. 2 stupid idiots and a cashier. Only the beep of the scanner reminds us that we're together. 3 weary strangers at a supermarket on a Tuesday night. But something has shifted. The air feels clearer, the light's brighter, and I've become strangely aware of my heart. The man pays for his groceries. We say goodbye, and he marches out of the store, chest proud, bag swinging. The cashier scans my stuff. Neither of us speaks. We don't spoil the moment with words. I tap my debit card, hold my bag of groceries to my chest, and carry it out of the store. Seated in my car, I can still feel my heart blown open by a single exchange between two stupid idiots and one cashier, 3 human beings. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. Next up is I am about to spotlight you. Jennifer Delisle. Jennifer Bowering Delisle is the author of 4 books of poetry and nonfiction, most recently Stock from Coach House Books in 2025. Her book of lyric essays and micrographia won the Robert Croach City of Edmonton Book Prize and the Writers Guild of Alberta Memoir Award. She is on the board of New West Press and lives in Edmonton on Treaty 6 territory. And yes, your book is nominated for the Stephenson Poetry Award. So I'll let you take it away, Jennifer.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks, Writers Guild. Thanks, all of you, for coming. So stock is a response to stock photography, and I was inspired by Allie's fantastic essay to change last minute what I was planning to read, change one of them anyway. So stock photography is starting to be infiltrated by AI, just like everything else. And so if you're in a stock database, there's lots of suggestions that you skip scrolling through the real photos and just generate it with AI. But if you put AI into a stock database as your search term, what you're going to get for imagery is robots, humanoid robots. So this is kind of playing off of that. It's called Explore Visuals Created with the Power of AI. In a dim oak library, a robot holds a quill and writes on parchment already stained with lemon and burned around the edge. I'm told my creativity can be unleashed. AI has made its self-portrait, its Tinder profile, celestial eyes, shirtless, bearing rippling blue networks, while its real body is a catacomb of stacked silver boxes flickering on a barren farm. This form, its flexes, more human than generated friends with half heads and hands where noses go, more human than the girl, gently pinked, who does not live but can be owned, whose smoothness frames lips slightly parted as if about to be silenced. So these poems about stock photography, there's multiple forms that they take in this book. A lot of them are fictionalizing the common kind of characters and tropes that you see in stock photography, and I kind of enter into conversation with some of them. So I'll be in conversation with the idealized mother or the businesswoman with her arms folded. But something else that I did was I entered some words that I had on my mind into the stock databases and kind of riffed off of the results. And so since we in Alberta have been talking about the weather a lot more even than usual lately, including right before this started, all of the writers were talking about the nice weather today and what a relief it is. I thought I'd read 4 really short ones that I wrote by putting the names of the 4 seasons into a stock database and riffing off of what came out. Fall. Orange gourds and trees and fallen seniors. So many ways of leaving, but none that make me feel the way the weather does, like we felt the last breath of summer's false joy. She holds her chest, she can't get up. The cold was always already here. Winter. It does not snow in the city, but you can become a woodland creature if your knits are chunky. And forget there's danger simply standing in the air, that your skin is holding your life like apples in a paper bag. Spring. Bouquets on barnwood and bokeh on buds, cherry blossom toothache. Where is the brown grass matted with mold and sand of winter's traction, the mophead shrubs, runoff lit by littered foil, not the yellow of little boots? Where the mud-stiff gardening gloves worn for warmth, the neighbors reckoning that tomorrow that last ice will be gone. The huddle of ladybirds under last year's leaves mumbling, "Are we there yet?" in their sleep. Summer. Still life of flip-flops, straw hat, pineapple wearing sunglasses, palm on beach without season, clams baked in low tide by a dome of heat, berries cooked on the bush, seniors sleeping on tile floors waiting for the ambulance that does not come, the earth showing seams like an old shirt worn and bleached again and again. Put the shades on the coconut and look, this beach will soon be submerged by precedents, and the fire makes a cloud whose lightning starts more fires. And I'm going to end with just one more short one. It's called Craft. Symmetrical flames stuck to the toilet paper roll by floating hands. Color is primary. Rules: lid the glue, show don't run with scissors, don't mix metaphors or you'll get brown. This is the kind of craft that will fly us to the moon, that golden muse tossing her botanicals. My child's version shows the bleeding of the marker, skid of glue revealing where her hands were. Is it the work that makes her proud, or does she really see a cat mewing on the page? And does my poem mew? Does it fly? Do you like it? I made it for you. It's not a bird, it's hope. Share what you know of fuel and jettison, and I'll show you where my hands were, my way of seeing the night sky, my way of saying, look what I made. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Jen. That was excellent. Next up is also for anybody that's joining us, if you are going to be in Edmonton this Sunday, May 3rd, we're going to be at Audrey's Books at 2 p.m. And some of the people that are reading here will be there as well, and some new people, but we're also celebrating the finalists there, as we always do each year at Audrey. So if you're going to be there, come on by and tell your friends, and see you there. Okay, so next up, I'm going to spotlight Leslie Greentree. You have been spotlit, Leslie. Okay. Leslie Greentree is the author of 4 books, most recently the short story collection, Not the Apocalypse I Was Hoping For, and a number of personal essays. Her writing has won and been shortlisted for a High Plains Book Award, the WGA Short Story Collection Award, the Griffin Poetry Prize, and various CBC prizes and creative nonfiction awards. And you have an essay that is a finalist for the John White Memorial Essay Award. So take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Congratulations to all the shortlisted authors, and thanks to everybody for coming. And Jason, thank you for your gracious hosting. So yeah, this is an unpublished essay, so everybody's congratulating me and Allie, on something that like nobody has any idea what it is that they're congratulating us for. So it's kind of fun to actually, be able to give people a little flavor of it. So my essay is Furniture Broken by Boys, and it's written in three parts. The first section is called Red Formica Table Set. The second is called Pastel Gray slash Blue slash Pink Couch, and the third section is called Same Man, Different Friend, Different Couch. Um, the threads that run throughout are love and loss, pizza and beer, Phillips head screwdrivers, and the importance of strapping things down. So I'm going to just read the middle section, um, the pastel gray, blue, and pink couch. While the guys felt the couch lift off from the back of the truck, felt it bounce, then spring free as they drove at highway speed down the busiest divided highway in the province, while they watched it land on the highway with horrified eyes on their rear view and side mirrors respectively, they had to continue for miles before finding a secondary highway to turn around on. They then traveled northbound. They could see the couch lying partly on the shoulder, partly in the right lane, until they found a place where they could cut through the ditch and return again to the southbound lanes where the couch reposed. They arrived just in time to see the truck hit the minivan. The couch technically belonged to your future husband, as this bouncing couch event happened a month before your wedding and the official commingling of all your possessions. The driver of the truck transporting this almost new couch, your first grown-up furniture, because soon you would be grown-ups, a married couple, was a close friend, a groomsman in your upcoming wedding party. You didn't understand what had happened. Was someone going the wrong way on a divided highway, you asked, imagining a head-on collision? No, your future husband said impatiently, drawing you maps in the air until you saw it. The vehicles that collided were driving in the same direction. A minivan in the right lane, a truck slightly behind it in the left. Neither the minivan nor her passengers saw the couch until they were almost on it, at which point the driver swerved without shoulder checking into the left lane and into the truck that was trying to overtake it. The vehicles collided, both going the same direction. The police were summoned and tickets were issued. No one died. Well, no one died at that moment. After your wedding, the couch took pride of place in your new living room despite its bruising. It was still the prettiest piece of furniture you'd owned to this point. It looked like the furniture in other people's houses, grown-up houses. It had the soft velour-like finish that was popular in the 90s, with washes of watercolor grays and blues in paintbrush patterns and splashes of streaky pink. It was scuffed on the left side, a scar your eyes would continue to land on and pass over, absently and without comment, throughout your marriage. On the day of the couch collision, you were exhausted from weeks of deflecting your future mother-in-law's attempts to change the color of your wedding flowers. So when the boys arrived late, pale and stressed, you were so distracted and glad no one had been injured that you didn't think to ask about the unused bungee cords that lived in the bed of that truck. You offered the usual pizza and beer, and you let it go, just as you let go a month later of your mild irritation at the length and boringness of the speech this close friend slash groomsman gave at your wedding, and how little it mentioned you. What you didn't manage to let go, 7 years later during your divorce, was how this former close friend slash former groomsman dumped you. I told him he didn't have to choose, your ex-husband said, and you believed him. But he says he's not comfortable. A rejection less anticipated and less wished for than the divorce itself. Perhaps there were lessons or the beginning of a series of thought-provoking conversations to be found somewhere in that murk. But at the time of this couch bouncing, you were more concerned with how the threat of a lawsuit might overshadow your impending wedding. It didn't. The suit was slow-moving and dealt with by an uninterested insurance company more than a year after your wedding, leaving you free to focus your attention on more vital issues such as hair up or down. Up was the answer. So no one died then, at the time of the highway couch accident, although the driver of the minivan died of old age within the year. Once she was dead, her passenger felt justified in suing her friend's estate where she hadn't been comfortable suing her live friend. Her neck and back had never been the same, she said. 6 months after your wedding, you got a dog, another symbol of adulthood, a fluffy, grinning white dog with sparkling brown eyes and expressive eyebrows. Your husband, who had been brought up in a matchy house and not a ramshackle one, did not initially believe the dog should be allowed on this bruised yet still pretty couch. But dogs must be cuddled, and your husband loved the dog half as much as you did, which was still, it must be said, a hell of a lot. The magic of this scuffed, soft 90s style couch was that your dog's long, silky white hairs didn't show against its fabric or stick to it. The couch had a matching chair, big and soft and squishy, where you and the dog eventually gravitated, where you would curl up nightly to read and weekly to watch Star Trek: The Next Generation. The chair was never thrown from any vehicles and became the site of one of your favorite photos to this day of you and your dog. So I'm stopping there, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Leslie. Next up, we have Barb Howard, and I'm going to spotlight you for everyone. Barb Howard's short fiction and essays have been published in magazines and journals across Canada. Her sixth book, a collection of outdoor stories, will be published by University of Calgary Press in 2027. Barb is past president of the WGA, a recipient of the CAA's Exporting Alberta Award, and a previous winner of the Howard O'Hagan Award. And that is the same award that you are a finalist for right now. So I will let you take it away, Barb.
Thank you. So we ended on Leslie writing about a dog. My dog has just barged in here, and if there's going to be a glitch tonight, it's going to be caused by us. I'm not responsible for any weird sounds you hear. This is a short story that I wrote for a contest put on by the University of British Columbia, and that's why in the bit that I read and in the whole story, I seem to mention UBC way too many times. And I have edited down to, I think, less than 5 minutes, kind of a mini compact version of the story that's missing one thread. So the piece is called Walking Jello. On Chandra's first day at UBC, she sits alone at the end of a long table in the residence cafeteria. At the other end, a group of students gather. Returning students, Chandra assumes, since they seem to know each other. They don't notice her. Their attention is focused on one young man in a Thunderbirds t-shirt. He scoops a large cube of red jello from a saucer and places it on the inside of his wrist. Through a series of muscle twitches and finger movements, he makes the jello wobble walk up his forearm. When the jello reaches his elbow, he snaps his arm straight and the jello jumps into his mouth. The students around him erupt in cheers. Chandra finishes her soup, pretends she hasn't been watching the jello guy. His trick confirms her worry that university will be full of people with unfathomable talents, like making jello march up an arm. How could Chandra have prepared for or even imagined such a thing? Her new shag, haircut, and acid wash jeans aren't going to help in this situation. Chandra completes her first year at university, returns to her hometown and to her parents, who say it wouldn't be such a bad thing if she brought her marks up in subsequent years, and to a forgettable summer job at the humid, chlorine-scented pay desk at the local swimming pool. At night, she makes red jello, telling her parents that she has learned to love it while at university. But after her parents go to bed, she stands at the kitchen counter and tries, unsuccessfully, to make jello cubes walk up her arm. Years later, Chandra spends her 30th birthday in the hospital, on leave from her job at a Vancouver bookstore. Her parents bring her 6-year-old daughter to visit. They all make awkward comments about how the daughter's new tracksuit and matching scrunchie, bought for this birthday visit, are accidentally the same blue as Chandra's hospital robe. While Chandra's parents go for a coffee that Chandra knows they don't want, her daughter climbs on the bed, snuggles in close, young face full of worry. Chandra rolls the meal tray towards them. She describes a trick she saw in the cafeteria during her first year at UBC. She puts a cube of jello on the inside of her wrist, and she puts a cube on that same spot on her daughter's wrist. The jello in this oncology unit is yellow. Attempting to make the yellow jello walk makes Chandra's daughter laugh, and that laugh fills Chandra's heart. She tires easily and gives up her jello walking efforts after a few tries. Her daughter persists, carefully setting cubes of jello on her little forearm, wriggling her small fingers until all the jello has crumbled on the bed sheets. 12 years later, Chandra is back in the hospital. Her daughter, a teenager now, in a denim miniskirt and Uggs, sits on the edge of Chandra's bed and reaches for the yellow jello on Chandra's meal tray. She places a cube on her inner wrist, just above all her multicolored plastic bracelets. The jello moves only a short distance, slides to the floor. Chandra's daughter nudges it with her Ugg. Chandra can't see her daughter's face, but suspects she's crying. "We'll try together when I get home," Chandra says. Her daughter nods, scoops the jello off the floor with a napkin and drops it in the garbage. Chandra does get home. And they do try again. They sit side by side at the kitchen table, a full tray of orange jello in front of them. Orange is her favorite color. And halfway through that tray, her daughter walks a jello cube from her wrist to her elbow and snap, pops it into the air and catches it in her mouth. Chandra is wonderstruck. Although she hadn't shared this with her daughter, she'd given up jello ever walking, and maybe because of her recent medical treatments, had even begun to doubt her memory of Jello Guy. Her daughter cuts another cube from the tray and completes the jello walk and pop again. Then her daughter smiles wildly at Chandra and squeezes the orange jello through her teeth, which is gross and makes a real mess. On Labor Day weekend, Chandra drops her daughter off for her first year at UBC. After a more perfunctory goodbye than she expected, although she did get a decent hug and the promise of future texts, Chandra, stoic yet weepy-eyed, goes for a walk, and she thinks about her daughter in her new-to-her room in residence. Maybe she has already gone to check out the cafeteria. She has an on-trend bucket hat, and she knows how to walk jello up her arm. She'll be fine.
Thanks, Barb. Next up, we have Jana. There we go. You've been spotlit. Jana Klosterman is an assistant professor in UCalgary's Department of Sociology. At the Limits of Care is her first book, half memoir and half critical analysis. The book is based on her PhD dissertation, which was awarded the Governor General's Gold Medal and a University Medal for outstanding graduate work. And this is a finalist for the Wilfred Eggleston nonfiction book category. So take it away, Jana.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. I noticed that my mom, Kathy, has been blowing it up in the chat, and she once commented to me, don't use us, I'm not your friggin' material, to as I was taking notes on things she said, and has also over the years, when I've paused to take notes on what she said, she's commented that I didn't need my own notes. So half with a wink, because I think you like being written about, Mom. But I'm here to share about my book, At the Limits of Care, and it's about my experience hitting my own limits as a care worker. So I entered into social services, bent on being good, and as a 6'3" woman, it felt like this counter path I wanted to take in life. And my first job after university was living at a rectory, where I lived and worked in exchange for room and board, and remember my feet hanging off the end of the twin bed. So after that, I worked for several more years in social services, including at L'Arche, where I lived with and supported people with disabilities. So that section I'll read from today. And I'll also just say that the first half of the book's memoir, or first part, and then I moved to learning from other women like nurses, social workers, women ages 28 to 78, where I'm hungry to learn if they'd ever felt like they crossed lines as care workers, or what sense they made of that experience, or So I'll read from the Care Junkie memoir section. At L'Arche, I can remember talking about Mary Oliver's poetry with a fellow live-in care worker. We both wondered what we should do with our wild and precious lives. We also cheered at Oliver's advice in Wild Geese that you shouldn't have to walk on your knees to feel worthy. Oliver's words felt like a reprieve, although neither of us thought it was as straightforward as it sounded in the poem. We couldn't help but think of the soiled sheets or unattended needs that would be left in our wake. We commented that the people we supported wouldn't be able to get out of bed, or that we'd be screwing over our coworkers, and that it wasn't as easy as closing up shop or letting the, quote, soft animal of our bodies love what it loves. Just as unsettling, I think, was the moral dilemma and anticipated loss of goodness that would follow if we were to quit. With how we had been set up, leaving or just quitting would also mean erasing our sense of selves. Weren't we caring good girls? As I look back now, I can hardly put into words how much was getting in the way of me simply resigning. Nor can I put to words how much I wanted out. I wanted more than a small room with a twin bed and 3 hours off in the afternoons between shifts. I wanted time to myself, space to write, and to think. I remember that impulse to leave hit when a professor encouraged me to go back to school, and when I visited a friend at grad school and stayed up all night talking about ideas. It hit when I saw a guy grading papers in a cafe, and when I overheard a young family planning a pool party. I too wanted something of my own. The urge to leave also hit when I walked empty-handed through IKEA while a friend sourced out stuff for her new apartment. With every tea towel and trinket that she put in her cart, I had a strong urge to leave, to quit care work. In an essay entitled Nesting that I wrote about how I was craving freedom for myself as a live-in care worker. Like a robin hoarding twigs, string, and hair, looking for a safe, quiet place to settle in, I was nesting. It wasn't that I wanted to be a mommy or a homeowner, but I craved time and space for myself after years of delivering everything I had to others. I wanted space for intimacy and time to write. Pushed past my limits, I went into a middle manager's office to express how burnt out I was. I asked her if I could decrease my hours and decrease my pay. I know I only have a couple of months left here before grad school anyway, but is there any way possible, by any chance, if we could all figure it out on the schedule, that I could have an extra day off each week with reduced pay, of course? I'm really struggling. My hands shook as I made the request. I knew it was a vulnerable one. Caught off guard, Esther, one of the L'Arche elite, smirked and giggled. I couldn't believe she giggled, raising her hand to cover her mouth as though she was embarrassed or playing coy. From there, she denied my request. She said that if I was gonna live there, I had to work my full hours. I mean, I wasn't thinking straight, could hardly make eye contact with the people I supported, and she wanted to milk just a little bit more out of me. When I myself needed care, there was none to be found. No care for the caregiver, no thanks, no kiss my ass, nothing, as my mom would put it. I blamed Esther, I blamed the organization, I blamed the state. Night after night, I blamed myself. At the limits of care, I felt an immense sense of shame. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have gotten myself into such a mess? How could I have disregarded my needs and my desires to that extent, staying for so long, several years without a backup plan? How fucked up was that? How fucked up am I? I thought of my younger sister Claire, who worked as a marketing manager at a bank and had bought her first home at age 23, around the time I started as a care worker. I also thought of friends from high school and university who had chased domestic bliss, full speed, just gunning. I had announced to them and to the whole damn world that I was carving out an unconventional counterpath, going after the good life story. And now what? Admit to them and to myself how pathetic it all was? Admit that I couldn't recognize myself in the mirror? That I'd stayed to develop to the point of developing disgust towards some of the people I supported? That I'd morphed into the worker no one wants? Yep, you know me. I always said I'd go after the good life story. Get a load of this one. Thanks.
Thanks so much. So last but not least, we have Linda. So Linda Williams is the author of The Beauty and the Hell of It and Other Stories, and a recipient of the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta Emerging Artist Award. Her work has appeared in Grain, The New Quarterly, and the Humber Literary Review. Born and raised in the eastern townships of Quebec, she has called Alberta home since 2002. And Linda, your book is a finalist for the George Munier Fiction Book Award, and the Short Story Collection Award.
That's
So
correct.
take it away.
Thank you, Jason. So I'm going to read from a story titled Berman, and it needs no introduction because I'm going to start from the top. That summer, I read Natasha 20 times, trying to figure out how it was doing what it was doing so I could evoke a similar response through a narrative told from her perspective. The problem was that I had both more and less power than she did. Basically, I had more in common with Berman, and I was too stupid to know it. At least that's how I read it now, when I look back on those pages, brimming with feminist defiance and misunderstanding of the agency that Natasha actually had. I was living on the top floor of a 4-story walk-up in a bedroom that was technically a closet. A walk-in just large enough to accommodate a twin bed and the 3 cardboard boxes that contained all my personal effects. My roommate, Amber, had a lot of sex, and I didn't have a door to shut, so I spent every spare minute at the library, quietly defacing a hardcover edition of Natasha, with copious marginalia, a dull HB2 pencil my weapon of choice. At the time, my friends were decorating their walls with Nickelback posters. Meanwhile, I had a massive corkboard with annotated index cards of the story's arc. "Isn't this what serial killers do?" Amber said, squinting at the inverted check mark. "I'm writing about one of those, too." "No shit. It's $27.38 for the phone bill." "Didn't we just pay it?" "Comes every month." I was pretty sure the utilities came every time she needed extra cash for E, but I was only paying $150 for the closet, so I had no complaints. Unlike Amber, I didn't have a lot of boyfriends. J-Lo and Beyonce had confidently let us out of heroin chic, but taking up space was the least of my worries. It was my mouth that got me into trouble. My uncle had nicknamed me Bumblebee for the invective I'd been spouting since I could speak, and I'd made up my mind in middle school that if having a boyfriend meant pretending to know less than I did, then I'd rather listen to my whole class call me a lesbian at recess. I could ring my own bell. Even with guys, that's mostly how I finished. And really, if Betty Friedan had devoted more time to masturbation, it would be an entirely different feminist landscape. Can you imagine what the world would be like if men hadn't benefited so directly from the sexual revolution? Right there. That's the kind of question that caused problems. You're not supposed to ask that when a man is undressing you. But seriously, this dude was trying to impress me by unhooking my bra with one hand. Make me come before you do. Maybe do it twice. That's impressive. So I was single and having all the orgasms my partnered friends whined they weren't getting. And I was utterly immersed in my schoolwork. I wanted to pursue graduate studies, and I was using the summer to get a head start on my capstone project. Beyond an MFA, I had a 5-year plan. I was going to give Alice Munro a run for her money, and I was going to do it before I turned 30. You can't do that. The voice startled me. It was Saturday. The library had barely opened, and I was sure I was alone, leaning against the pillar, marking up the dialogue between Berman and Rufus. I looked up at the speaker. He was about my age, tall and good-looking, despite the bleached hair and dark goatee. He was wearing a white and blue pearl snap shirt that I instantly wanted to borrow. I knew it would look better on me, since I had tits to fill out the pockets, and by the color of his face, I could tell that he'd clocked that I was wearing my Spray Lake Sawmills t-shirt without a bra. I tucked my pencil into the book to mark the page. You work here or something? No, but you can't tell me what to do then. He folded his arms over his chest. What if everyone did that? He understood the categorical imperative. Good for him. How would you like to read a book covered in someone else's crap? It's not crap. You didn't answer the question. False dilemma, cowboy. Not everyone is so poor they can't afford their own copy of Natasha. So you think you're special? I know it. I gave him a little shove to signal the end of our conversation, but he didn't leave. Have you even read it? Of course. Would I care this much if I hadn't? I don't know. You seem pretty intense. A librarian finally poked her head through the stacks to shush us. Come on. He took the book from my hands and tossed it on a shelf. I'm not sure why I followed him. Some combination of pheromones and a desire to steal the shirt. Probably because I thought it would make a good story. While Amber collected notches on her bedpost, I was busy collecting strange experiences I hoped to weave into fiction. My young life had been uneventful in a way that troubled me as an aspiring, troubled artist. How would I write without memories that tortured me? I wasn't the first young woman to underestimate her imagination.
Thank you so much. So that's it. We did it. Everybody, thanks so much for coming to support the writers and for being a great Zoom audience with encouraging comments and stuff like that in the chat. Thanks to all of our readers today. Like I said, if you're watching this, if you're watching this live, thanks very much. If you're watching a recording of this later, thank you for watching that. Thank you for sharing the recording. Also, if you like podcasts, we basically share the audio version of this through the WJA's podcast channel or podcast signal. And so you can listen to the audio version of this as well, wherever you download podcast stuff. Once again, if you are interested in supporting these writers and the other finalists, we have our Edmonton reading with finalists on this coming Sunday, May 3rd at Audrey's book starting at 2 p.m. And the Alberta Literary Awards finalists, or the awards themselves, will be Friday, June 5th, when everybody gets to find out who the winners are, and we're gonna have a big celebration, and it'll just be a great time to celebrate all of the finalists and all the achievements from everyone this year. So thank you very much again for coming, and thanks again to all the readers, all the finalists. Congratulations on your work this year. And that's it. Have a good evening, and thanks again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jason.